Hello everybody. This is part 2 of learning about method parameters. So in my last video I taught you guys about named parameters, dynamic parameters, optional or default parameters, and value parameters. So in this video you will be learning about reference or ref parameters, out parameters, and params parameters. So let's get straight into it. So first I'll be talking about reference parameters. So in C# by default we pass an argument value directly by using value parameters. You'll already be familiar with what a value parameter is because I've explained that in my last video. So another way to pass arguments is by using reference parameters. So while passing arguments using reference parameters, we pass not only the data like how we pass for value parameters, but the reference of where the data is from, the reference of where the data is stored. So in order to pass an argument, you need to use the ref keyword if you're using a reference parameter. I'll show you that in the Visual Studio demo. And if any argument is passed by reference, then any change to the parameter in the called method is reflected in the calling method. I'll show you that too in the Visual Studio demo. So any argument being passed by reference must be assigned before passing it to the method, and if it's not assigned, then it will give compile time error. I'll show you that too in the Visual Studio demo. So now we are just going to fire up Visual Studio. Okay, so here I fired up Visual Studio and this is the project or app we created in my last video. So we are just going to modify this and do it using ref parameter. Before doing that, I just want to show you one more thing using a value parameter. So that is just to understand about what's the difference between value parameters and ref parameters. So here I'll open up my class library, and here I'm going to type in roll number, that is this parameter roll number, equal to 30 semicolon. Okay, and then I'll go to my console application, and here I'm going to declare a variable that is called roll number, and I'll assign it the value of 21. And then in the next line I'm going to type in a console.write line method, and inside this I'm going to type in roll number colon placeholders for the variables, and after the quotation mark a comma, and here I want to display the roll number. Control C and put it in there. Okay, so now instead of this 21, we want to take in this value that is stored in a variable, that is 21 itself. Okay, so now we are going to put in one more console or write line method, and this is for your understanding about what will be the value of the parameter after modifying it. So console.writeLine, let's see, roll number after not after, I think, yeah, in the console app. Yeah. Colon space placeholder for the variable. Come after the quotation mark, and then here I'm going to type in what it has to display in here. So what I wanted to display is this same variable in here that is modified here. So here, and then now let's try and run our program. So now you can see that in both the places the value of roll number is 21, and even here it's 21. So because I'll tell you what happens. So first we are going to we declared a variable, right? And then we are printing something on the console, that is this. Okay, so we can also do the same thing using a reference parameter. So here before int, I'm going to type in the ref keyword, and I'll go back in here, and then now there'll be an error. Yeah, error. So it says me that I have to pass argument 1 with the ref keyword. So I'll just add the ref keyword in there. So now let's try and run our program. So control plus F5. Okay, so here it's 21 and here it's 30. So now I'm gonna say what happens. So first we'll declare a variable that's called roll number, and then we're going to print something on the console. Like I said, roll number. Then we create an object of our this class, okay? And then we are going to call this method called print, and then we are passing the argument that is reference roll number, because our method, our parameter is a reference parameter. So that's why you add in the ref keyword. So after calling this method, we type in the console.writeLine method again. So here we have modified this roll number, the same variable, to 30, and that's what gets printed in here. So now it is proven that reference parameter do not take directly data in, they take in the reference of where the data is stored. So if we do not assign this variable, then we'll get an error. So here you can see that it's use of an unassigned variable. That's a normal error. Okay, I'll just comment that. And here you can see that there's an error and we pass this. Okay, so I'll just assign this back in. So Control Z. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to show you one more thing. I'm going to go to my class library and comment this line of code. Like I said, it's not necessary to assign it a value in here. Inside our reference class. So I'll just show you what's the difference by running our program. So now it's both 2121 and there's no error. So now let's recap what we learned about reference parameters. So here, if you remove this assigning this 21 equal to 21, then like I said, you will get an error. That is because it's unassigned. Another important thing is that this one, modifying it inside the reference method, is not really necessary. You can just remove it or just kind of keep that, your wish. So next we are going to talk about out parameters. So an out parameter is almost similar to a reference parameter, but note that any argument passed as an out parameter need not to be initialized, whereas in the case of reference parameter it must be initialized. So this is linked to what I showed you when I didn't assign the 21 to our roll number variable. We got an error, but in this, in using an out parameter, you don't really need to assign that variable a value. Another difference is that A reference parameter may be assigned inside the method in which it's called. That is not necessary, like I said, but in the case of an out parameter, it is must that it should be assigned in the calling method before any exit. I'll show you that too in the Visual Studio demo. So now again, I'm going to open up Visual Studio. Okay, so here I've again started Visual Studio, and this is our project we created using a reference parameter, and I've just uncommented this line of code. So instead of the ref keyword here, I'm going to type in the out keyword. Out integer whole number. And in here there is an error. So it says that argument 1 must be passed with the out keyword. So this 2 will change it to out. And now I'll just run my program. Control F5. Okay, there is no difference in the results. So that is what I said, that both are same except for some differences which I'm going to show you now. So here again, I'll just remove this 21. And then here I'll get an error. Again, I'm going to comment this too. And then here you can see that as for reference parameters, here also there was an error. But now there is no error, and let's run our program. So here the result is 30 itself. So now it is proven that we don't need to assign the out parameter variable a value before passing it here. So now I'm going to uncomment this, and I'll put in this back. Okay, and I'll go forward here, and I'm going to try to comment this. So here, oh no, yeah, here you can see that the out, this method itself has an error in it. So it says that the out parameter whole number must be assigned before the control leaves the current method. So if you try to run your program, your build will fail. So I'll just remove this. So it's kind of just like the opposite of how a reference parameter works. You need to assign this, the reference. Oh, I'm sorry, not fully the opposite, but here it is mandatory for this variable to have a value, and as for using a reference parameter, but in the case of an out parameter, this is not really important. So here, in the case of an out parameter, this is mandatory to assign the parameter a value before exiting this method. But in the case of a reference parameter, it's not really mandatory. So that's all for out parameter. Now we are going to continue on the params parameter. That will be the last method parameter on the list. So basically, a param parameter is useful when the programmer doesn't have any prior knowledge about the number of parameters to be used. By using the params parameter, you are allowed to pass any number of arguments, and only one params keyword is allowed, and no additional params will be allowed in a function declaration after a params keyword. The length of a params parameter will be 0 if no arguments will be passed. Now you will see all these concepts in action on Visual Studio. So here I've fired up Visual Studio, and we'll be doing what we did with the out parameter using a params parameter. Kind of not the same thing, it will be different. So here instead of out, I'm going to type in params. So what our app will do is basically it'll display some student names on the console, and I don't really know type how many students are there. So it's params, and it should not be int, it should be int array. So int, not int array, string array. This student name is string. Okay, and I'm going to remove this line of code and replace it by a for each loop. We're going to learn in detail about for each loops later in this course. So for each var student in, and I'm sorry, this should not be roll number. It should be students. Okay, student in students. Okay, and then I'll start up curly braces console.writeLine method, and I'm going to print the student names on the console. So student name colon space placeholder for our variable, comma, and I want it to display student, not students, student. So here you can see that we have not declared an exact number of how many student names will be there in our string array. So that is the importance of params. Now here I'll just correct some things. So now we don't want these things here. So I'll just remove them. And this one, okay. And it's not out roll number. We can just it should be whatever the names of the students. So I'm gonna type in Akshat, and my second name, let's see, Avik. Now I've given only passed only two arguments, and let's see what is the result that appears on the console after running our program. So Control plus F5. The results are the student names, Akshat and Advik. Now I'm going to try and type in more student names. So my third name is going to be John, and my fourth name will be Scott. And again, let's run our program. Okay, all of them are displayed on the console. So this has proven that in our param string array there is no restriction, and for passing how many ever kind of student names you want, you can just pass how many ever student names you want. I've also said that the parameters should be the last on the list. So if I'll just add something here. So integer standard comma, okay, and then here I'm going to print that onto the console. So console.writeLine standard colon space placeholders for our variables after the quotation mark of comma, and I want to print the standard in there. And then I'm going to pass the value of our standard here. We have an error actually. So it says that it cannot convert from string to int. So the first parameter is actually an integer, so we're just going to pass that here, 5, comma, okay. and then I'm going to run my program. So Control plus F5. Okay, the standard is 5 and the student names are followed. So now if I try to put here, if I try to put the params parameter in the first, then let's check what happens. So I'm gonna cut this comma and paste that here. So there is an error. So it says that a params parameter must be the last parameter in a formal parameter list. So this has proven that we can have the normal parameters also along with params parameters. So I'm just going to clear up this error. Okay. So, but the only thing is that the params parameter should be at the end of the list. So I hope you have understood about all the parameters in my list. So that's it for this video, guys. If you like this video, don't forget to like and share this video. Please subscribe to my channel for more. Goodbye till the next video.